Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Murder on the Orient Express from 1974, starring Albert Finney, Lauren Bacall, Martin Balsam, Ingrid Bergman, Jean-Pierre Cassel, Sean Connery, I'll talk about him, John Gielgud, forgive me if I said that wrong, Wendy Hiller, and Anthony Perkins, and directed by Sidney Lumet. Now, this is my first viewing. I've seen the remake of Murder on the Orient Express before, but I haven't seen any of these originals. It's going to be a long series, but let's get into it. In 1930, at the Armstrong House in Long Island, New York, Daisy Armstrong is kidnapped and murdered, as it says on newspaper clips. And I think it will come back when we get to the Orient Express and the parents of Sonia and Colonel Hamish Armstrong. I don't know if that's who the parents are. Make it to in the press after young Daisy is killed or was killed, and do not know who did it, and that's a mystery that's worth solving in this movie. 5 years later, on the Asian side of Instaball, or Bull, excuse me if I said that wrong, we get a boat with Ms. We get on a boat with some lady, and we also meet a detective, Hercule Poirot, played by Albert Finney. And I'm going to be honest here, I can't understand the names of what half the dialogue is saying because of these thick accents. It's hard for me to get their names down or what in the hell they're talking about. We also meet Colonel, let me see if I'm saying this right, Arbuthnot, played by Sean Connery. And yes, I'm talking about James Bond Sean Connery. And when I started this movie on first viewing, I didn't know Sean Connery was in this movie. And so far, it's very hard for me to understand who these characters are because of, like I said, their thick accents. Coincidentally, we're introduced to everyone who will be questioned on the Orient Express. And am I caring for the characters? Not really, because I don't know the characters well enough to know, so I'm going to go ahead and say the actors' names, or maybe somewhat the characters' names for the rest of the show and series, maybe, so I know who they are unless I can get their names easily, but we get on the Orient Express, and we also get people like Anthony Perkins, Vanessa Redgrave, Michael York, and I'm already brought up Albert Finney and Sean Connery. Those are the only actors I know in this movie. We start moving on the Orient Express, and I do like when the inside of the train scenes and outside looks as far as the set design looks. The acting is good if I knew what they were saying versus what their names are. For example, Ratchet is the only character. I got his name and he makes thus far, excuse me, and he makes an offer to Hercule to keep him protected and rejects and says no and pulls a gun on Hercule and offers him more money but still says no until he disappears. And this is the half that could get cut out of this movie. This is a long movie at 2 hours and 7 minutes. But when we get to the second half, the mystery begins, is where it kicks into gear, kind of. But for now, Hercule tries to get some sleep, but can't through all the noise, and the train stops in the middle of nowhere. But yes, the first 40 to 50 minutes did take a long time to get to the point of the movie, in my opinion. We see Ratchet is killed, but if you ask me, on first viewing, my money was on Anthony Perkins. This whole movie, and we'll see who did it at the end of the movie, but I honestly wish the movie didn't give me murder after murder because the Armstrongs with their child killed, and now Ratchet was murdered, and everyone on the train is questioned by Hercule, starting with Anthony Perkins, who played a secretary. And why is my money on him? Have you seen the 1960 version of Psycho? You can tell by the look of his face he's up to something not good. It just felt obvious to me, and then we find out Ratchet was the whatever that is, was the killer of Daisy Armstrong, which is convenient, and Hercule questions every single passenger, which is a fun sequence to watch, in my opinion, anyways. After 50 minutes of interrogations of every single passenger on the Orient Express, Hercule finds out the murder and how it was done and who did it. And the way it was done was rather clever, but it did it. But who did it? Everyone. And how do I mean? Everyone on the Orient Express takes the stab at Ratchet, and honestly, it's cheating because you watch the times, multiple times compared to the first viewing. It is way too obvious, whereas the first viewing, it feels like it's cheating. That's everyone is a suspect, and that pissed me off. And I can't remember how the remake ended, like that. But I remember it being a little frustrating. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 4.4 out of 10. I think the 50 minutes of interrogation was the best moment of the film, but it's not enough for me to recommend the movie because I left so frustrated with the accents but being super thick. And the first 45 minutes of the movie slowed way down. Like, some of that could have been cut out. The ending reveal, it did annoy the hell out of me. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me. And next week I will be back with Death on the Nile, the 1978 version. And until next time, all aboard.